Good morning. This morning I'm working on some recall training with Yeager. This is on my back to basics, and the challenges I've been having with her. And so what we're doing is I've got her on a leash and she's on the run, and I have her morning breakfast, but I'm not feeding it to her all at one time. What I'm doing is I'm feeding it to her in little tidbits. And I'm using her food call, which is just her name, Yeager, until she comes to me. Then I'm using a clicker, and I have a small little portion of food, just a couple of grams, and as soon as she comes, I click it and let her eat the food out of my gloved hand. And what my whole purpose of this is to get her to always come back when her name is called. She used to do this when she was really little, and then I got away from doing that, so I'm going back and reinforcing what I've been doing. And I'm also doing this with the cash box, where I say cash it, cash it. I'm not doing that as much this morning. I'll show you some of that in later videos, where I teach her to go inside her cache when I say cash it, cash it. And then when she goes in, I click it and feed her through the little hole. So hopefully that's going to reinforce, one, her recall, which is her name, her food call, and recall, which is just her name, Yeager, and then cache it to go into the cache box. So let me show you how that's going. So in doing this recall training, when I have Yeager on her harness and on the run, all I'm doing is like going about doing some of my morning chores, like feeding my chickens, collecting the eggs, making sure to have some water, and I put Yeager on the run. And then I go about doing things and let her play, and when I see that she's playing, I'll walk over and call her name with a little bit of food. So let's try that. Oh, she's got her food already. Now that's a blooper. She knows where her food is, which is in this little red thing, and she got it out of the food pocket. But we're gonna do some recall training, so let's try that and let me see if I can catch it on some video. So I'm going to walk over here by her cache box in her swimming pool and call her name, because she's kind of preoccupied with the dog, with Neela. Neela, be nice. Get down. Yeager! Yeager! Roll. So what you just saw, I've already done about 4 or 5 times this morning. I'm going to let her play around a little bit. She'll go explore her pool, she'll go into her little box, and then when she's preoccupied doing something else and has forgot about food, I'm going to call her name again. Otherwise, she's just going to follow me around begging for food. So I want her to start getting preoccupied with something else, and then I'll give the recall and call her over and feed her at the same time, using the clicker to reinforce that she's done what I wanted her to do. So right now she's over here playing on her ice, and I'm just going to step right over here so I can be in the camera and call her. Okay, she's up here. I'm gonna go back down by her cache box sort of nonchalantly, or find a spot, because right now she's begging for food, and I don't want her to be begging for food, because that really doesn't reinforce the call. So you can see her down here. Oh, there she goes over there. So I'm gonna come back over here. Yeager! 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 Here she is. And then I feed her some food. I gave her a pretty big chunk this time. I'm just about out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk over by her little bucket box, her bucket house, and do the same thing. While she's eating on this and preoccupied with something, I'll walk over there so she's not following me around begging for food. And then I'll do a call for her, because I want her to be engaged in something else other than thinking about food. So that can be pretty tricky in and of itself while she's pretty hungry this morning. But it will reinforce it, and when you take her out training, you're going to be able to recall her, and that's important. So that wasn't so good. I was trying to get her to do where she would just play and would kind of ignore me, but she's not. So I'm not going to feed her any food right now because she, even though she came to me, it wasn't when I called her, so she's not going to get rewarded for that. Let's try again. Okay, so she's over there kind of sniffing around, playing around with stuff, maybe looking for some food. Okay, so she's up there engaged to something else. So I'm going to walk down here by her cash box. Well, not her cash box, but her box house. I'm going to walk over here by... Well, there she is again, right there. So I'm going to walk over here, back on the other side of the run, and call her. Yeager! Yeager! Okay, that was pretty good. Normally, it's not this easy. Normally what I do is I spend probably 30 to 45 minutes in the morning doing this, because I'll put her on the run and I'll go do something else. For filming purposes, I'm trying to get this done in a hurry, and I'm really not showing exactly what's going on. So as you can see, she's coming over here begging for food. I don't want her doing that with this recall training. It doesn't reinforce calling her name. She's the one that's in charge when she's coming and begging for food. So you really have to let her get engaged in something else. Like, for example, if she goes inside her house, that would be great, a great time to call her. If she's swimming in her pool, that's another great time to call her. When she's running around, jumping around and playing, that's a great time. If you have Joseph Carter's book, he talks a lot about this and goes into detail on recall training and what you can do to really reinforce the recall. And that's why I'm going back to basics. Okay, now she's playing around, she got spooked by something. This is a perfect time. I'm gonna walk right over here and I'm gonna call her name. So look how engaged she is. She's looking around, she saw something move. So I'm gonna walk over here, I'm gonna call her. Yeager! Yeager! Okay, here she comes. Yeager! Yeager! Good girl. So that's the last of her breakfast, and a pretty successful training session this morning. And this is the basics. I'm going back to doing this because it's something I kind of skipped past. I thought it was ingrained in her, but then I saw a lot of failures and the challenge, and it's not easy. But if you're consistent and consistently do the same things, you're consistent in the time that you do it every day or every other day, she's going to learn it. Your mink's going to start responding to you in a really positive way because they're getting the food, they're getting a reward, you're being consistent in your commands. So thanks for joining me. We're going to be doing better. Go back and look at some of my other videos that where you see where I'm making failures, I'm making mistakes. But then I'm pretty new at this, so I'm going to have some failures. I'm going to learn from those if I go back. And it's really helped for me to video it and to watch what I'm doing, because sometimes I go back and watch a video and I see what mistakes I've made. Come on. In the pocket. Put it in your pocket. There you go. Let's unharness you.